Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful 3rd of June, 2024. Coming to the Crusty podcast, episode 287, Real Stupid. That's right. Independent senator and, of course, the Liberal Party are all over lowering the voting age. Tisk, tisk, tisk. What's the world coming to? Inflation, debt, and letting more ignorance prevail when it comes to voting for our next leader. All that and more come up in the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Please stick around. Listener viewer discretion is advised because I will swear, smoke a cigarette, make some funny faces, and make some SJWs really, really uncomfortable. See you in a bit.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me.
Yes, sir.
There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthy.
From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast, a Canadian veteran's point of view on political, social, economic issues and life. Here's Crusty.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 287 of the Crusty Canuck podcast for this June 3rd, 2024. Real Stupid. How's it going, everybody? I'm your host, Crusty Canuck. Hope you've all had a good weekend. My apologies for not getting an episode up last night. Had some power outages there up and down for a few minutes. And so it was kind of unpredictable to get the show up there and running. But here I am now, and I shall have a show hopefully again tomorrow. And if you like and hear what you see, please click like and subscribe. Share this content all over social media platforms too. And this podcast is also brought to you in part and supported by the Veterans for Freedom Network. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Stand to Veterans for Freedom and stand by for Veterans for Freedom TV. Other veterans, other freedom fighters, and other like-minded individuals in the name of Canada will be on Veterans Freedom TV. So stand by that too. If you like and hear what you see, please click like, subscribe, share this content all over social media platforms, and look at the little red thing at the end of your screen. If you want to support this podcast, please do. All the more, all the merrier. Hope everything is well for now too. I know things are tight for a lot of people. But please donate what you can, when you can, and how you can. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, like the Tutter crowd says, that was a really winded intro. Real stupid. So the past 5 days, an independent senator by the name of Senator Rosemary Moody, independent senator from Ontario, Jamaican born and raised, basically put together a bill called Bill S-201. So in layman's terms, it basically means that she wants to lower the voting age from 18 to 16. Now, for those of us who paid attention to Canadian civics and history back in high school, up until 1970, the voting age in Canada was 21, as well as the drinking age and everything else laid out before our feet at that time. Okay, now I was around in 1970. My parents were, and I remember my father telling me the whole story about they lowered the voting age for the simple reason because they wanted to keep Pierre Elliott Trudeau in power because he had such an impact on the youth of that day. Kind of like what Justin Trudeau had back in 2015, how brand new voters came out in droves. Okay, how they came out in droves to vote this clown in because he liked sunny ways and stuff, right? When he failed to realize, they failed to realize too, that he was going to rob us blind in the near future. Interesting concept, eh? Anyhow, make a long story short, this senator wants to promote lowering the voting age for the simple reason because she's a doctor. She's worked with youth most of her life, I think, prior to her appointment in the Canadian Senate. Now, I'd like to remind my American listeners and other listeners too, that you are appointed to be a senator in Canada. You're not elected. Okay, you're appointed by the sitting government to be a senator. Now, I don't know what her affiliation is with the Liberal Party. I don't know what her affiliation is with the NDP, nor do I really care what affiliation she has. She sits as an independent senator, nonetheless, and she was appointed. Okay. So to make a long story short, she really, really wants this because of the democratic process and inclusivity and all these wonderful things. And what I'll do is I'll read her actual proposal from the senator's page, and I'll leave that in my description. But to make a long story short, I think it's basically to win favor with the Liberal call, the Liberal numbers, okay? We've seen the polls. We've seen how the Liberal brand is just dying out, okay? The brand itself, okay? And you, my wonderful audience, I would like you to tell me exactly what you really think of proper liberalism, not the brand that's been presented to us in Canada, in the United States, and in Britain alike, the actual meaning of liberalism. Okay. Live and let live was what was my logic. Live and let live. You do you, I do me. Everything's fine. We live in harmony and everything's just hunky and dory. But when we've seen the liberal brand since 2015, we've seen how they operate. We've seen how much money they've spent. I've engaged numerous people on my X feed, on Twitter, and even on Facebook too, people telling me that you just don't understand Justin Trudeau, or you're just jealous of how these guys have been successful. Firstly, I don't get jealous over someone's success. In a way, I admire people that become successful because they do it on their own terms. They do it by their means, and they persevere, and they go through and tolerate and go through and tolerate. Because every time you're successful, you've got to fail a minimum of once before you become truly successful in anything. Okay. Which brings me to my point that when you're 16 years old, do you know exactly what you're doing? Do you know exactly who you are? Okay. Think about that. Do you know exactly what's on your mind? Do you know exactly what your body and your mentality and your awkwardness, what's happening to you at 16? Now, you can follow orders. You can go out and get a part-time job, and you can study hard and get great marks and become a super great student, but you're still 16. A year later, you're 17, you're 18. And then by, by the miracle of the law, that makes any sense. Once you're 18, you're deemed as an adult, right? Because then you can pay taxes like other adults. You can join your military and go to war and fight the good fight. You can also, in some provinces in this country, buy liquor and have a drink with your friends and party it all up and get lucky, And it doesn't matter what preferences you have, okay? The thing is, when you're 16, you're awkward as hell. And every generation has had that. Every pop song, every rock and roll band has written songs about being 16, being awkward, being 16, all these puppy dog love pop songs and shit all the time. And even this day, when you look at certain pop artists, it's like they're speaking to teenagers because that's the market. Okay. So now we have a political platform that wants to pander and cater to teenagers right now. So if there's anybody under the age of 18 listening to my podcast, listen to me carefully. I am not going to disenfranchise you because you're under the age of 18. I'm not going to disenfranchise you because you believe in this or you believe in that. Okay. But if you're going to hop on this inclusion train and this DEI model and all this woke superficial BS, and you will find out it is superficial, by the way, you're going to realize that you've been lied to, you've been conned, and you've been pandered to, and you're still going to get screwed financially and socially one way or the other.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
And welcome back to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 287 of the Crusty Canuck podcast. Real stupid. Yes, I'm your host, Crusty. So anybody who wants to promote this bill, anybody who backs up this bill, I would say it's a real stupid gesture. Because I'll say again, what the hell do you know at 16 years of age? Honestly, what do you know? Do you know where you're coming, where you're going? Do you understand your own sexuality? Do you understand life as we see it? I'm not saying teenagers are stupid, but I think you, my wonderful audience, and other like-minded individuals, we look back at our own lives when we were 16, and yeah, boy, we were fucking dumb. We had no idea what to do. And it makes it that much harder, though, too, when you come from a certain family dynamic that wasn't really that supportive to begin with. Okay. Now, I'm not going to take this opportunity to blame, quote unquote, mom and dad for issues, but there are times in my life when my parents could have done a hell of a lot better. Okay. And I'm not dissing my mother and I'm not dissing my father, but there are situations that both my parents got into where they should have maybe done this, or maybe should have done that, or I should have done this, or I should have done that. Either or, it's tough. It is tough. There are people I went to school with that had abusive parents, and I'm talking really abusive parents, not just having a drink and calling you a dirty name, having a few drinks and start throwing fists around. I've had friends of mine that had mothers that just didn't care about anything but vanity. I had friends that had fathers that didn't want to show up, that didn't want to be there. And I had friends that had single parents. But then again, at that time, I never really pried into their history. I never really pried into the dynamic. I pried into the fact that, who am I? What am I doing? What do I believe in? At 16, yeah, I was a bit of a moron. No, correction. I was a moron. And it didn't change. It didn't change too much when I was 17 or 18. You know, big into punk rock, fucking loved the noise, loved playing bass, loved screaming my lyrics, loved writing poetry, a few songs here and there, being creative. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. And I really don't expect any teenager to know exactly what they're doing. Let them get into their mold. It's like I've said in previous episodes, let kids be kids. Let kids grow into what they feel good wearing and being on their terms. But now we've got a government that wants to get into that and cash in. Right? Now, what great things has this federal government done for, quote unquote, young people as we speak? Okay. Especially during the pandemic. How many kids have gone through certain anxiety issues? How many kids and adults alike, don't forget adults too, have gone through high anxiety issues, depression, letdown, hurt? And now here's the federal government trying to cash in on that sympathy, because they want to win the propaganda war. They want to win the culture war. They want you to think, oh, we're going to save you. Any kids watching this right now and listening to this by chance, okay? No politician is a god. No Hollywood actor or actress are gods or goddesses. No singer, no songwriter are gods. No matter how much their art or their words entertain you, they're just like you and I. They're still people. They might have a bit of power here, a bit of power there, a little left, a little right, a little down the center. It's all the same bird. Right wing, left wing, all that good shit. You've seen the meme. Okay. So I'm going to say no to having a 16-year-old vote, because it's tough enough being a kid growing into the adult phase. Let's leave it at 18, or let's say meet a compromise and bump it up to 19 again. That way you get a kid or a young man or a woman that have actually been in the workforce for a couple of years, and they see what political decisions can do. They'll see what some of these political leaders and know-it-alls try to do at the expense of their money and other people's monies. Every decade, we've had that whole dilemma. We've all seen the rock and roll teen movies where your parents are condemning your generation, and then those kids are condemning parents' generation, right? I remember my grandparents condemning my mother's generation, and I remember my mother condemning my generation, and now we're condemning the lower generations too. But when you look at our grandparents' generation, you know, the people that were born in the 1920s, they survived the Great Depression. And a lot of them had to go to war too. So that puts things in a bigger fucking perspective, because they didn't have social safety nets like they do now. There wasn't a lot of government programs out there to help our grandparents. There were politicians that were deemed as gods as well, but they had to come up with programs to get people working to pay some money, to get a paycheck, to buy things, regardless of the inflationary means or not, regardless of the depression. Then along comes a little man with a mustache from Austria causing some shit. Not to mention a little Japanese guy doing the exact same thing on the other side of the globe. And a little Italian by the name of Musso doing the same thing in Italy. Wow, you got yourself a crisis. It seems kind of weird now, too, how there's a crisis with the Russians and the Palestinians and those who are on the sides of the so-called oppressed. Right? So when it comes to voting power in this country, it should be given to people that are responsible enough to go out and appreciate the right to do that, rather than feel that they're entitled. Heck, a few years ago, the big craze on TikTok was frickin' kids eating goddamn soap. Really? You know, the Tide Pod thing? And now you want to give them the right to vote? Now, I'm not saying all kids want to eat soap, but there are quite a few kids that follow the trend. You know, and it wasn't good then. And you want some of those kids to vote now? Do the math.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 287 of the Crusty Up podcast. Real stupid. Let's lower the voting age, says Justin Trudeau. Now, he's not really saying that. I just put this card together for the sake of him, because he would go along with that idea in a heartbeat because it'd probably save his ass from his really, really terrible record. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to cue up about a 30-second video from Senator Rosemary Moody from the CBC of all places. And I really want you guys to listen to it and how she talks about it. Excuse me. And how she presents it to us, the masses, right? Submitted for our approval just to see how it goes. But ladies and gentlemen, you decide, and then you tell me in the comments or whatever if you want to carry on with this ridiculous endeavor. It just kind of proves my point on how to make... It proves me right that we should elect senators, not appoint them. Anyway, you decide, ladies and gentlemen.
Now bear with me as I go into my last paragraph here, because I had this part translated into Gen Z for us. Honorable fam, waiting to vote until 18 is a big yikes and mad shuggy. But S201 hits different. Today's youth slays and stays bussin'. That's why we got to give them a chance to clap back. If not, how will we be able to say that they ate that up? No cap, this bill slaps and is electoral glow up. I am its #1 stan for real. Merci, thank you, Nyawa.
No cap, this bill slaps. Yeah, it slaps all right. It slaps every working, sane Canadian right in the face. That's what it slaps, Senator. It doesn't help the Canadian working class people. It doesn't help the taxpayer base, right? Like I say, Liz, I'm not trying to diss anybody under the age of 18 that thinks politics, because there are a few teenagers out there that do think politics, that do think about what's going to be best for this country because they're going to grow into it. But the average 16-year-old, honestly, doesn't really think about it. Not just based on my personal experience, but I look at my nieces and nephews. They're thinking about playing hockey. They're thinking about going to school to the next level. They're thinking about getting their careers on the go. I remember at 16, people telling me, oh, you got to think about this and you got to think about that. And you got to think about your future. You got to think about going to college or university. I had no fucking idea what I wanted to do in college, and especially didn't have any fucking plan to go to university. Even then, it was expensive as hell. And you had to qualify for a student loan based on your parents' income. So it was the first thing from my mind. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I really had no goddamn idea what I wanted to do with my life. And I had a good idea in my early 20s, but because of certain financial and security reasons, meaning that I wasn't going anywhere at the time, mind you, some support wasn't there either as well, I joined the military. But now when I look at our military, it's a bit of a joke. Right? Especially with some of the senior leaders and the civilian leaders alike calling the shots. So you're basically giving kids a choice, but you're not giving them a choice. It's basically a coercion, if anything. Oh, if you vote for this, we're going to have this for you. If you vote for that, we're going to have that for you. Kind of like what some of the big union bosses were doing back into the last election. But see, as far as I'm concerned, unions have nothing to do with their workers and who they vote for. They should have a goddamn say in it. Not whatsoever. Pay your union dues so the union can protect your job and protect your sovereignty and protect your dignity, not tell you who to vote for. So when you look at this bill about amending the voting age, you really got to think twice about it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some of this for you, ladies and gentlemen, and I will keep this in my description so you can read it in your own leisure. But I'll give you some insight on where this lady is coming from in the name of progress and inclusivity. Oh my goodness, here we are. It's something to do with more of the let's just read this. Lowering your voting age. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to make everything just one big happy family. Oh, Tuesday. So from Miss Senator Rosemary Moody, here we are. Honorable senators, now she wrote this back in February of 2022, right? But now, the liberals are desperate, so they got to fucking scrape the barrel. I rise today to lend my support to Bill S-201, which should lower the federal voting age in Canada from 18 to 16. Colleagues, Bill S-201 reflects on a growing movement to include the voices of young people in our democracy, and I thank my colleague, Senator McPherson, for her championship of this bill in the Senate. In reflecting on Canada's democracy and institutions, a foundational point that has been that every citizen should have a voice. As such, one of the more powerful mechanisms that we can use to exercise this voice is through our ability to vote. Now, she's right there. Right? And I'll just skip down here too. We don't know about electoral rights and all that. As Senator McPherson has mentioned in several of her speeches on this topic, including today, 16 and 17-year-olds already have the capacity to gain employment, pay taxes, drive, join the military, give sexual consent, marry, and have children. If we're already trusting young people with these responsibilities and rights, I would also argue that they are able to assume the right to vote, and they're ready to assume the right to influence policy and to participate in a parliamentary process that directly impacts their lives. Okay, I don't agree with that. Just because you're able and you have the ability to fornicate and to copulate and to have fun like any teenager should, that doesn't mean you can make a decision when it comes to foreign policy or tax ratios or how much taxes we should pay. We all pay enough taxes as it is. We don't need to pay any more. And the thing is that you're appealing to a look. You're appealing to looks. You're not appealing to the actual foundation of something, too. As much as I'd like to see more people get involved in voting in this country, I don't think at 16 years old you really know exactly what you're doing. She does go on to say that youth are the future, but as it stands, we can't vote for who gets to shape that future. And particularly, this is unprecedented climate crisis, lack of youth voting rights might mean that we don't have a future at all. Okay, so note how she throws in the unprecedented climate crisis. So we better hurry up and use climate change as an excuse to get more people to vote for what looks good rather than what is good. Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to leave this in the description for you all to read at your own leisure. What I've read a couple times already. It just doesn't seem legitimate. It has nothing to stand on other than the appeal. Okay. If you want the youth vote in this country so badly, then you have to stand up for people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and our seniors. All day today, I've seen nothing but how the Liberal Party has backed up the progress in the so-called dental program that they put together. Not much of a program when there's not too many seniors using it just as of yet. But, it's all eye candy. It's all word salad. It's all verbal diarrhea to get us to pay attention. But you and I see through the BS, ladies and gentlemen. It's that simple, right? How many more of these little these little tickets and these little parades they got to put on for our amusement? The system is failing all people, meaning that I've paid too much taxes. My parents still pay too much taxes. Your parents pay too much taxes. You pay too much taxes. And for what? What have we got to show for it? So we can pay some senator who is appointed, who gets anywhere from $125,000 to $140,000 a year, to put together these bills to bring out more word diarrhea, to appeal to the masses. Breads and circuses, right? When those senators should be singing in the Senate and strengthening and toughening up our laws. When it comes to bail reform, when it comes to immigration policies, when it comes to fairness in the workplace for all. Okay. I come across a Twitter feed there the other day, and I wasn't really impressed. I had a banter back and forth with this lady, and I was basically telling her that the Liberals haven't done much for Canadians in regards to actual keeping the money afloat and keeping things able for everybody. She took that as a personal insult because I guess she was disabled. And I meant able as in being able to get up and to do something, to earn something, not as because, I'm not dissing you because you're disabled. So for the better part of 10 minutes, she kept sending me these clinks about ableism and disableism. So basically, I ignited a social justice warrior. I'm not dissing anybody who is disabled. Everybody in this country has the opportunity to thrive. Okay. But if you're going to harp on people over fucking words, then you're the problem. Okay. It's that simple. That's your character. That's your stamina. That's your cojones. That's how you view the world, okay? And I believe in handouts to a certain extent, meaning that if you have a pension because you earned it, okay. Or if you do have a disability and you cannot physically work as somebody else, then I can understand. I can understand certain welfare tickets for people that are trying to get ahead and they're not. I can see certain hands and gestures and certain social programs that will help. But without generating enough income, without people working, without private sector coming in to getting more jobs out there so more people can go out and work and earn more money and spend more, the social programs are null and void. The social programs come from tax dollars. So do MPs pay. So do senators pay. Now you see what I'm getting at here, right? So we have to elect people that are not going to take all the money and give it over here, or take all the money and give it over there, or spend $35 billion on an infrastructure that hasn't done anything for this country, or spend billions upon billions of dollars to help a dirty little war when our military goes without. You see what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen? Right? So bills like this speech S201, I highly suggest people write to that senator. And the contact information will be in that page there where you can find out where she is. Okay. Senator, what's her name? I mentioned her name before. Senator Rosemary Moody. Okay. And tell her. In fact, I suggest everybody bombard the emails of all these senators and say no to S201, S201. Say no to it. It's that simple. Right? There's more laws that have to be looked after. There's more procedures out here that should be looked after rather than worrying about getting 16-year-olds to vote. I think there's bigger problems in the frying pan we got to look after first. Because firstly, we're on the cusp of World War III, ladies and gentlemen. And we're also having a lot of great divide brought to us by our government in the name of anti-Semitism, in the name of Zionism, and in the name of anybody speaking out. I think we should worry more about our free speech laws and then our tax laws and term laws, rather than worrying about how many young kids get a chance to get out there and vote for the sake of a party in the name of colors and pretty streams, rather than actual foundational work. But that's just me, though, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I've had a lot of time to be an adult, and so have you. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, but think about it. You vote for a politician that can get the job done, and yet a bunch of people vote for another politician that worries too much about his socks or his fucking hair. You know what I mean? Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Crusty Canuck on this 3rd of June, 2024. I wish good things for you all too. I am actually back at work tomorrow because I had to take an extra day off because we were rained out, but I have to start again tomorrow. But I will try to have an episode up for you tomorrow for Tuesday, nonetheless, and then the following Friday thereafter too. So don't fret. Like I said, technical issues and all that, power outages and everything. But I'll do what I can to get episodes consistent for you all out there. You watch at your own leisure. Just a reminder too, if you like and hear what you see, click like and subscribe. Share this content all over social media platforms, ladies and gentlemen. Do not be shy. Don't be shy at all. Ask me a question. Use the Ask Me app. It's all there in the description. If you feel like donating, please consider donating too. The more, the merrier. I'm not going to be demanding dollars after dollar after dollar, but things are getting tight for me here too. And I'd really, really appreciate it if I was getting consistent donations from you, my wonderful fans too. Doesn't matter, $1, $2, $3, $4. You know, my ideal goal is to probably try to make an extra $500 to $1,000 more a month doing this show. And if you can manage that, ladies and gentlemen, that would be great. If not, well, please keep tuning in and then pass the word along, et cetera, et cetera. But like I said, I'm in Crusty Canuck on this beautiful 3rd of June, 2024. I wish good things for you all out here. In my area, it's raining right now. So it'll help some of the crops out there, help some of the beef out there. Needless to say, keep your chins up, ladies and gentlemen. Do what we can, help each other in these trying times. Do what we can, help neighbors and everybody else out. And I'll see you Tuesday. And like I say, humanity and merit wins the day. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Bye for now.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me. There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
This has been another episode of the Crusty Canuck podcast. Stay sane and thank you for listening. From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast.
Well, smack my ass and call me Judy.